we have our own, again, Jerry Antomato, who's going to be interviewing Dan Scarfe from XRai itself, of course, and talking about revolutionizing healthcare through an innovative technology platform that's seeing tremendous growth. Jerry?
Yeah, cheers, Dan. Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to have Dan on the program. Those of you who have been following HITLAB know that Dan was one of the winners of our Age Tech Collaborative from AARP pitch competition in June. So congratulations, Dan, for coming through that and coming in, I think, third place. Really, really well deserved. And we want to get right into it and hear more about XRai, of course. And we'd love to hear about its primary applications, what you're currently doing, of course, and more importantly, I think, what inspired you to develop XRai Glass.
Well, thanks so much for having us. It's an absolute honor. Just quick 20 seconds of background on me. I spent 20 years building what would become the world's largest Microsoft partner. One of my small claims to fame is I literally wrote the book on how to deploy Microsoft Cloud in organizations like healthcare, for instance. But we sold that business in the summer of 2020 to a company called Cognizant, who some of you might know for their TriZetto product. And so I was a little bit of a loose end. Back in the UK at the time with my granddad, who lost his hearing, like many 96-year-olds do, and sat around with his family, unable to engage in the conversation. And he was just kind of daydreaming and kind of had this epiphany about why can't we combine real-time subtitles with augmented reality to kind of create live subtitles? And so the idea was born on that simple idea, and that was nearly 3 years ago now.
No, that's amazing. What an inspiration to start off a technology like this. And at the AARP competition, actually, I think you dialed in from one of the launches of your own set of glasses for the first time, your XRai AR1. What was the rationale behind that?
So, I mean, we've had our application available now for a couple of years, but there were some challenges because you had to get the software on one device, you had to go and get some separate glasses. The original glasses had tinted lenses, they had a wire, they weren't really ideal for what we wanted to do. And the feedback that we got from many of our users is just make it simple. We just want 2 buttons, and we want one to turn it on and off, and we want one to start and stop the subtitles. They also said, we don't want wires, we want to just be able to pop this thing on and away you go. And we also don't want the tinted lenses. So, kind of combining all of those requirements together, we launched our own glasses, which are kind of these ones here, which are quite fun. Again, you can't quite see them because the background is cutting off and not necessarily going to win any style awards just yet, but all now completely self-contained, all the software built into them. So it's really exciting, to be able to provide this technology to users for the first time.
No, that's awesome, and definitely a fashion statement, I think, if I'm allowed to say that. Now, there's definitely a sort of a generic sort of application in terms of, being able to use the technology in all sorts of walks of life. But of course, HITLAB being a healthcare focused organization, we'd love to hear about the actual specific needs or even challenges that separate XRai Glass from other wearable health technologies that are out there for healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, healthcare is just such an enormous opportunity. We believe many of our users, unfortunately, regularly visit healthcare facilities. Just the idea of having a conversation which is occurring about you, between other people stood around you, and you're not able to engage in that conversation. There are decisions being made about your health, perhaps, that you're not able to fully understand. So, the ability for patients to be able to wear glasses like this, to be able to be fully immersed into, conversations which are regarding them, we think is super important. One of the other pieces of functionality which we've built out, which funnily enough was the result of demand from users, is real-time translation. Now, again, in a health setting, we think there are incredible applications for that, both on glasses, but also on tablets and phones. The ability to be able to bridge language as a barrier to communication, we think could potentially be even more worthwhile. And again, you look at an emergency situation, there's not always time to get translators, especially not given the number of languages which are spoken around the world. So, this ability to harness almost a Babel fish to be able to translate between any language, we're super excited about.
Yeah, I think that's super important, especially since, you mentioned there are different languages, between cultures and countries, but there's also the translation of the healthcare language and jargon itself, which I think, if you're already fighting that one barrier is super important. You eliminate all the other barriers as well. Now it's obviously important for a lot of the technology that they're able to, integrate and be implemented in various different systems. What are the plans so far for XRai Glass in terms of integration and implementation into the current healthcare systems and workflows to, really improve efficiency and, most importantly, patient outcomes?
Yep. So, I mean, we've designed the entire system from the ground up to be, capable of integrating with all kinds of different systems. As you mentioned, healthcare systems, amongst the most important to make sure that we have a complete, accurate record of exactly what happened, and transcripts of conversations and meetings between doctors and patients. I think is super interesting that you actually could capture that a lot more easily. Again, especially across that language barrier, and then be able to save those to the patient notes. So, in its most basic form, that's what we hope to get to. But then you could start to do all kinds of analysis over the top of that. Again, if you had all of those transcripts accurately captured, not handwritten notes, imagine the kind of analysis that you would be able to do across all of those interactions between all of the doctors and all of the patients. What's the general mood? Are there something, what's the general persona of people? So, there's all kinds of exciting things you can do once you've got that data available.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you can talk to this specific question, Dan, not just on behalf of yourself, but other founders and startups who are moving sort of into that medical space in terms of medical device regulations and maintaining those high standards of safety and reliability. But what are you anticipating with that move, and sort of those challenges that are associated with that? And hopefully that'll sort of give some advice to some of the other startups and founders that are listening today.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we heard from the previous speaker about this, so I won't even attempt to appear as knowledgeable as he was, but it comes with challenges and opportunities, shall we say. The challenges, of course, is there's a huge amount of red tape that you've got to go through, the accreditations, you've got to make sure that it's a quality product and so forth. So there is some challenges up front, but the opportunity, of course, if you can get your device listed as a medical device, is you've got access to funding, of course, as we start to distribute this around the world. Various customs import duties are based on whether this device is a medical device or not, and you're talking about a phenomenal difference in import duty. So there are huge opportunities that we are aware of and striving for. So that's why it's something that we're committed to do. Again, not globally. I think the previous presenter said, pick your locations carefully. And so we intend on doing that, picking a couple of geographies. But if we can get that medical device accreditation, that would, of course, be incredible.
No, that's awesome and sound advice and perspective coming from you, Dan, I think. And just to wrap up, I know we're at time and unfortunately we can't get to absolutely everything I think we want to discuss. But how do you see the role of the product sort of evolving, within the space and of course within the broader context of digital health and medicine, and sort of the future as to where you guys are going in the next 6 to 12 months or so?
Yeah, I mean, we've got this long-term vision of, how personal assistants are going to start to follow you around and how your data is going to start to follow you around. And again, in a healthcare setting, it's crying out for this ability to be able to take all of this information and make it available to patients in a more digestible form. And we think the XRai software could be an excellent way to allow people access to that greater understanding of what is happening as part of their healthcare program. And we're really excited about that.
Awesome. Well, I mean, we're definitely at HITLAB and in the community looking forward to see how it pans out for XRai Glass and yourself, Dan. It's been a pleasure having you on the program, of course, and congratulations again for coming through the competition as one of our winners. And as I mentioned earlier, pleasure to have another Brit on the program. And I think Ansley and Stan do this on purpose to me to make me more homesick by interviewing all the English and British people on the program. But appreciate your time, Dan, and I'll hand it back over to Stan.